The battle did not start with hope. It started with fear. Across the dark space of the Orion sector, burning ships floated like broken stars. Metal pieces spun slowly, glowing red from heat. Silent alarms flashed inside damaged command vessels. This was not a normal war anymore. This was survival. The United Coalition fleet was losing. Admiral Kael stood on the bridge of the flagship Valor Dawn. His hands were behind his back, his face calm, but his eyes showed the truth. He had seen many wars. He had never seen a defeat this close. On the main screen, enemy ships moved like a living storm. Perfect lines. Perfect timing. Every attack hit its target. Every defense failed. "They are advancing again," said a young officer, her voice shaking. Shield strength at 20%. No one answered her. Everyone already knew what that meant. Another explosion rocked the ship. Lights flickered. A low warning sound echoed through the bridge. Somewhere deep inside the ship, metal screamed. Admiral Kael spoke slowly. "How many ships do we have left?" The tactical officer swallowed hard. 17 combat ships, sir. We started with 112. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. The enemy was called the Carrion Dominion. Cold, silent, efficient. They did not send threats. They did not ask for surrender. They erased worlds and moved on. This sector was supposed to be defended easily. The Coalition had numbers, technology, allies, but none of that mattered now. Another report came in. Planetary defenses on Arxis Prime have collapsed. Arxis Prime was home to billions. Kael closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, they were heavy. "We cannot hold this line," he said quietly. No one argued. The bridge officers exchanged looks of fear and disbelief. These words were never spoken by an admiral. Not like this. Not openly. A senior commander stepped forward. Commander Selene Voss. Her armor was scratched. Blood dried near her temple. "Sir, if we fall back, the enemy will reach the inner systems within days." Kael nodded. "I know." Silence returned. Outside, another Coalition ship exploded into white fire. That was when the unexpected happened. A small console near the back of the bridge lit up. Not red, not yellow, blue. The signal officer frowned. "Sir, we are receiving an old data pulse." "From where?" Kael asked. The officer checked again, confused. "It's not from the enemy. Not from our fleet, either." "Source." Kael repeated. The officer hesitated. "Deep Space Archives. Restricted channel." That made several heads turn. Restricted channels were not used in battle. They were sealed. Forgotten. "Put on screen," Kael said. The screen changed. Old symbols appeared. Ancient markings used before the Coalition even existed. Selene's eyes widened. "No, that can't be right." Kael looked at her. "You recognize it?" She nodded slowly. "It's a contingency record." A young officer asked, "What kind of contingency?" Selene did not answer him. She looked at the Admiral instead. Kael stared at the symbols. His face grew pale. He knew now. This was not a battle plan. This was a last warning. The recording activated by itself. A calm voice filled the bridge. Old, tired, serious. "If you are seeing this," the voice said, "then the war is already lost." No one breathed. "This message exists for one reason only," the voice continued. "To remind you the final option." The screen shifted again. A single symbol appeared. A name that was never spoken aloud. Some officers stepped back from the screen, as if it could hurt them. Selene whispered, "We swore never to use this." The voice on the recording continued. "There is one species, one force, feared by allies and enemies alike." A junior officer shook his head. "That's just a myth." Kael turned to him sharply. "No, it's not." The voice spoke again. "They do not fight for honor. They do not fight for territory. They fight to end wars." Images appeared on the screen. Old battle footage. Fleets disappearing. Entire enemy armadas gone in minutes. No survivors. No signals. Only silence. Fear spread across the bridge. Selene spoke softly. They call them the humans. The word fell heavy. Humans, a species that once fought beside the galaxy, and then vanished from all major records. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others said they left the stars. But the truth was darker. Humans did not retreat. They were banned. The recording ended with one final line. Call them only if extinction is acceptable for someone. The screen went dark. The bridge was silent. No alarms. No voices. Only the distant sound of explosions outside. A young officer finally spoke. Sir, we can't call them. They're unpredictable. Another officer added, They don't follow coalition law. They don't follow any law, Selene said. Kael walked slowly toward the main screen. He watched the enemy fleet push closer. He saw another world burning. How long until Arxis Prime is destroyed, he asked. 6 hours, the tactical officer replied. 6 hours. Billions of lives. Kael closed his eyes again. When he opened them, his decision was clear. Open the human channel, he said. Selene turned sharply. Admiral, we are already losing everything, Kael said. His voice was calm, but firm. This is a turning point. Either we die quietly or we change the war. The signal officer hesitated. Sir, the channel hasn't been used in over 200 years. Kael looked at him. Then it's time. The officer slowly activated the console. Ancient systems woke up. Power surged through forgotten circuits. A single signal launched into deep space. No words. No threats. Just a call. Everyone waited. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Outside, the enemy fleet moved into attack position. Enemy weapons charging, someone shouted. Still no response. Selene whispered, Maybe they won't answer. Kael said nothing. Just as the enemy fired, the stars themselves seemed to shift. Space bent. A shadow appeared where nothing had been before. The bridge lights dimmed. Sensors screamed. The signal officer's eyes went wide. Sir, something just entered the system. Kael stepped forward. Identify it. The officer swallowed. No ID. No known design. And it's not alone. Multiple signals appeared. Silent. Watching. The enemy fleet paused. For the first time in the entire war, the Carrion Dominion hesitated. Kael whispered the words no one else dared to say. They heard us. The enemy fleet stopped moving. That alone was strange. The Carrion Dominion never paused in battle. They attacked without emotion, without delay. Their ships moved like machines following a perfect code. But now they waited. On the bridge of Valor Dawn, no one spoke. Every officer stared at the sensors, at the dark shapes that had appeared out of nowhere. They were not glowing. They were not large. They were simply there, like shadows cut into space. Are they attacking? Admiral Kael asked. The sensor officer shook his head slowly. No weapons charging. No shields raised. They're just watching. Commander Selene crossed her arms. Her face was tight. That's how it always starts, she said. A young officer looked at her. You've seen this before? Selene did not answer right away. Her eyes were locked on the screen. Yes, she finally said. Long ago, during the Virex collapse. That name made several officers uncomfortable. It was another war no one liked to remember. What happened then? Someone asked quietly. Selene spoke in a low voice. The humans arrived, and the war ended in 1 hour. No cheers followed. No relief. Only fear. Outside the viewport, the unknown ships drifted closer. They did not move like normal fleets. No formation. No clear leader. Each ship moved alone, yet together. Admiral Kael leaned forward. Open a visual channel. The signal officer hesitated. Sir, they didn't request contact. I know, Kael replied. But we did. The channel opened. At first, there was only darkness. Then a shape appeared. Not an alien. Not a machine. A human. The figure was tall, wearing dark armor with no markings. No rank. No symbol. The face was calm, almost bored. The human looked straight at the camera. State your emergency, the human said. The voice was flat. No anger. No kindness. Just control. Kael stepped forward. This is Admiral Kael Ren of the United Coalition. We know who you are, the human interrupted. That shocked the bridge. You are losing, the human continued. You called us because you ran out of choices. Kael nodded slowly. Yes. The human tilted their head slightly. Why should we answer? Silence filled the bridge again. Kael chose his words carefully. Because billions of lives will end if you don't. The human stared for a moment longer. Then they spoke again. You should have called earlier. The channel cut. Several officers exhaled at once. That's it? One asked. They're not helping? Before Kael could respond, the sensors exploded with activity. Sir, the tactical officer shouted. Human ships are moving. The shadow vessels spread out fast. Faster than any known drive. They passed through the battlefield like ghosts. The carrion fleet reacted instantly. Weapons charged. Target locks formed. They're going to attack the humans, an officer said. But the humans did not return fire. Instead, something stranger happened. Enemy ships began to drift. One by one, their engines shut down. Their weapons powered off. Their shields collapsed. No explosions. No energy blasts. Just silence. The carrion commanders tried to respond, but their systems failed. Communication lines went dead. On the coalition bridge, disbelief spread. What weapon is that? Someone whispered. Selene shook her head. It's not a weapon. Kael turned to her. Then what is it? They rewrite the battlefield, she said. They attack control, not armor. One of the human ships passed directly through a carrion cruiser, not crashing, passing through. Moments later, the cruiser went dark. Sir, the sensor officer said, fear in his voice. They're not destroying ships. They're turning them off. The enemy fleet was helpless. Then the humans did something no one expected. They stopped. Every human ship froze in place. The carrion fleet remained disabled, but not destroyed. Why stop now? A junior officer asked. As if answering him, the human appeared on the screen again. Admiral Kael. The human said, this is your last warning. Kael straightened. Warning. You asked us to save your people, the human said. We can do that. The human's eyes hardened. But if we continue, the carrion dominion will not exist tomorrow. The bridge went still. Selene whispered, they always give a choice. Kael clenched his fists. They didn't give us one. The human's voice remained calm. Your war. Your decision. The screen went dark again. Outside, the enemy fleet remained powerless. Waiting. Kael turned to his officers. If we let them continue, one officer said slowly, this war ends forever. And so does an entire species. Another added. Kael looked at the burning planets on the side screen. At Arxis Prime. At the lives already lost. How much time do we have? He asked. 3 minutes, the tactical officer replied. 3 minutes to decide the fate of a species. Selene stepped closer to Kael. This is why we feared them, she said. They don't fight battles. They erase problems. Kael closed his eyes. Outside, the human ships waited. Silent. Patient. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Space was quiet. Too quiet. The carrion dominion fleet drifted like lifeless giants. Their engines silent. Their weapons frozen. For the first time in millennia, their commanders felt something they had never imagined. Fear. Pure, unbroken fear. Inside the flagship Dreadspire, Commander Verax's hands shook over the console. His voice came out as a whisper. This cannot be happening. Signals were failing. Communications dead. Entire systems shut down. The Dominion's AI cores, designed to resist hacking, sabotage, and even biological infiltration, were offline. And yet, no one had fired a shot. Verax stared at the screens. Multiple contacts, ships, vessels, even smaller fighters, were moving unnaturally. They were not striking, not retreating, just phasing, passing through space like ghosts. A voice in his head screamed, "They're inside our minds." He snapped his eyes to the tactical officer. "Report. What is happening to our fleet?" The officer stammered, unable to speak. Every sensor read anomaly after anomaly. Every weapon system indicated neutralization from within. Ships collided with each other. Engines misfired. Shields collapsed, yet no physical attack could be traced. Then came the shadow on the edge of the fleet. A single human ship. Nothing extraordinary by size, almost ordinary, but the presence it radiated was enough to freeze fear itself into bone. The human's craft hovered, calm. Inside, the pilot said nothing. But the galaxy somehow knew judgment had arrived. Verax's first thought was arrogance. We have numbers, technology. We can overcome any force. The second thought was panic. Numbers mean nothing against this. The Dominion officers tried to coordinate, to fire together, to strike at the source, but every attempt was silently undone. Weapons turned inward. Shields failed. Engines betrayed their pilots. One by one, cruisers were disabled without a single human missile fired. Somewhere in the distance, a planet burned. Arxis Prime was in flames. Millions were dying. Yet, the humans remained calm, silent, patient. They were not heroes. They were judges. Meanwhile, in the Coalition fleet, Admiral Kael watched in awe and fear. This is what they do," he said quietly. "They don't fight battles. They deliver verdicts." Commander Selene looked at him, her jaw tight. And they always know the right punishment. The humans did not speak. They did not signal. They simply moved. The Dominion fleet unraveled like threads pulled by an unseen hand. Their greatest generals could do nothing. Their strongest soldiers could do nothing. And then the unexpected happened. The humans paused. They waited. The silence was heavier than a supernova. Every living being in the battlefield, ally or enemy, felt it. Every mind heard it. Every heart knew it. A single, distant voice finally broke the stillness. From the Dominion flagship. "Who are they?" Verax's lips trembled. They are the humans. The ones everyone fears." "Humans?" another whispered. "Yes," Verax said. "The ones legends speak of. The last species capable of ending wars and wiping out anyone who opposes them." On the Valor Dawn, Kael felt a chill down his spine. He knew that in this moment, humanity was not an ally. Humanity was a force the galaxy had forgotten. Deliberately, their arrival was not mercy. It was judgment. The human ships moved closer to the center of the Dominion fleet. Every carrion commander looked at each other in horror. They realized they had been caught in a trap they could not escape. The trap was not physical. It was existential. Then, a single transmission broke the silence. Not loud, not aggressive. Just one line. Decide quickly. Your actions or inaction will determine the fate of billions. No one knew if it was spoken from a human pilot or from the ships themselves. The message echoed in every mind connected to fleet. The psychological weight crushed even the strongest soldiers. Inside the Dominion flagship, Verax sank into his chair. His mind raced through every battle history he had ever known. Every victory, every strategy, every advantage. And for the first time, he realized none of it mattered. None of it had ever mattered. The humans did not fight like anyone else. They were not just a species. They were a force of reckoning. And now, the reckoning had arrived. Outside, in the void, planets burned, fleets drifted powerless, and the galaxy waited. For the first time in centuries, silence fell. The humans were patient. They were perfect. And above all, they were judging. Admiral Kael whispered, almost himself. So this is why the galaxy feared them. And far away, in the empty darkness of space, the humans did not speak. They simply watched. The universe held its breath. Silence hung in space like a heavy fog. For hours, the Carrion Dominion fleet drifted powerless. Every attempt to move, to fire, or even communicate had failed. Their weapons, engines, and shields had betrayed them, not by force, but by some invisible will. On the bridge of the Valor Dawn, Admiral Kael Ren watched the human ships move with calm precision. Each craft flowed around the enemy fleet, as if aware of every weakness, every flaw. They didn't strike at random. They didn't attack blindly. They simply existed, and the universe itself seemed to bend around them. Kael's hands gripped the console. He whispered, "They are not warriors. They are executioners." Commander Selene looked at him sharply. Executioners don't choose mercy. Kael shook his head. They choose balance. They act only when all other options fail. That's why we feared them, even as allies. The humans finally paused at the center of the Dominion formation. One craft drifted forward, the lead vessel. On the bridge, the view screens flickered. A human appeared, not in armor, not in decoration, but simple. Calm, eyes sharp, face unreadable. Kael held his breath. The human's voice came over the channel. "We do not intervene lightly. This war is yours. But one option remains. Decide." A council of voices inside Kael's mind argued. Call them or not? The humans had the power to end the Dominion, but at what cost? Selene spoke quietly. They follow one rule. Never start a war. Never extend mercy where the cost is too high. If we ask them to act, they will finish it completely. Kael swallowed hard. Do we want that? Millions may die anyway. But if we don't act, billions will die. The tactical officer interrupted, voice trembling. They are waiting for a choice, not command. Kael nodded. He understood. This was not a fight, not a battle. It was a test. Choice. He looked at the burning planets on the side screen. Arxis Prime. Millions of lives already gone. Then at the enemy fleet, frozen like statues, helpless. Finally, Kael spoke into the channel. We call you to act. End this war. The human remained silent for a moment, long enough to let the weight of the decision sink into every officer's mind. Then a simple nod, though no one could see it through the distant feed. Without warning, the human ships moved, but they did not fire. They did not target weapons. They moved through the Dominion fleet like wraiths. Suddenly, Dominion ships began to collapse internally. Engines exploded from within. Shields disintegrated. Systems turned against each other. Ships crashed into one another with no external attack. Kael felt nausea as he watched. The humans were not killing. They were dismantling the enemy completely, scientifically, ruthlessly. Then came a pause. The human lead craft hovered. From the bridge, the voice spoke again. We acted. Your enemies are neutralized. Survival comes at a price. Remember that. Kael leaned back. The price? He asked softly. Selene's eyes were dark. They are not concerned with morality. They only care about balance. The human voice continued, calm, almost bored. Do not summon us again, unless all other options have failed. Do not underestimate the consequences. Do not forget the cost. Then silence. Outside, Dominion ships drifted disabled. The carrion fleet had been neutralized without a single battle. The war was over, and yet the weight of what had happened pressed on every mind. Kael turned to Selene. They are not heroes, he whispered. They are the judgment, and they do not forgive mistakes. Selene nodded slowly. The galaxy will remember this day, but not for what we won, for what we survived. Barely. The human ships left as quietly as they had arrived. No celebration. No recognition. No explanation beyond their final words. Only the silence remained. A silence filled with fear, awe, and respect. Kael realized something no one else could yet. The humans were not just a species. They were a force beyond comprehension. A shadow that existed outside normal history. Outside normal rules. Outside the concept of mercy. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Carrion Dominion had never known fear like this. Not in centuries. Not since the first wars. Not even when their fleets were crushed by superior numbers. Yet here they were. Helpless. Broken. Shamed. On the Dreadspire, Commander Verax sat frozen. His fingers hovered over the console, trembling. Screens flashed red, warnings, alerts, system failures. But none of it mattered. Every weapon, every shield, every engine in the fleet was compromised. And yet, nothing had touched them. Nothing had fired a shot. The humans hadn't attacked. And that was the worst part. Verax's mind raced. How could a species disable an entire fleet without firing? Without striking? Without leaving a trace? The answer didn't come in logic or physics. It came in instinct. They were gods, but not the kind who built temples, not the kind who demanded worship. These were gods who judged, who ended things, who decided fates. And now, those gods had passed judgment on the Carrion Dominion. "Sir," a junior officer whispered, voice cracking. What do we do now?" Verax's jaw tightened. His chest burned with panic and humiliation. He had trained his entire life for war. He had studied strategies, tactics, and weapons. Every trick, every move, every historical precedent meant nothing. "Do not speak," he said, though even he could hear the fear in his own voice. He turned to the communications console. Every channel was dead. The humans had not only neutralized the fleet, they had taken control of the very perception of the Dominion. Orders could not be given, messages could not be sent. Soldiers turned on one another, unsure what to do, unsure if moving a finger would doom them. It was chaos, pure chaos. The fleets outside the Dominion's command hubs drifted like corpses in space. Systems that once functioned like clockwork were now weapons pointed at their own crews. Fighters collided mid-space. Cruisers drifted into each other, metal tearing metal, shields collapsing, engines exploding. And still, not a single human weapon had fired. "Sir," another officer stammered, We're losing control of the fleet." Verax's eyes widened. "Control? It's gone already." The Carrion commanders had been trained to rely on discipline, on hierarchy, on fear of punishment. And now that hierarchy had collapsed, every general, every officer, every soldier felt the same overwhelming truth. They were powerless. And then came the rumors. From the edges of the Dominion fleet, a small scout ship attempted to flee. It carried news, or at least it thought it did. The ship transmitted one short message before it was disabled entirely. The humans, they are not what we thought. They do not fight. They decide. The message sparked panic. Like wildfire in dry grass, fear spread through the ranks. Those who had survived battles, who had crushed worlds, now whispered in terror. They are the end. They are not merciful. They are not bound by anything we understand. Verax gripped the console with white-knuckled hands. The humans had done more than disable fleet. They had shattered the Dominion's mind. They had turned the soldiers against each other, and more terrifyingly, against themselves. The next shift in chaos was subtle but unstoppable. Dominion commanders, desperate to regain control, attempted to use sub-commanders' ships as guides. But the sub-commanders, paralyzed with fear, hesitated, or even acted against orders. Signals were misread. Commands were delayed. Engines fired at the wrong angles. Shields were left down. Collisions became inevitable. Every action seemed doomed. Every choice meaningless. The humans moved silently through the fleet. Not fast, not slow. Perfectly deliberate. And yet, no one could tell what they were doing. They were not attacking in a way the Dominion had ever encountered. "They do not attack," Verax said under his breath. They unmake. They erase." A young officer leaned toward him, whispering, trembling, "Sir, do you think they would kill us?" Verax swallowed. "Kill us? I do not know. I do not know their rules. But I know this. They do not forgive weakness. They do not forgive failure. And we are failures." In the midst of chaos, a small Dominion transport tried to flee. It carried civilians, families, non-combatants. They thought perhaps the humans would ignore them. They were wrong. A single human ship approached, its presence undeniable. Sensors could not detect weapons. Cameras showed nothing threatening. And yet, the transport stopped mid-flight. The systems froze. Engines failed. Life support hummed silently. And then, the humans vanished. Not physically, not in warp, just gone. The transport restarted on its own in a new course. No one inside understood. Some whispered that the humans had decided who would live and who would die, silently and without explanation. Back on the Dominion flagship, Commander Verax's hand shook. We cannot fight them. We cannot even understand them. An older general, silent until now, finally spoke. They are legends, myths. I thought those stories were exaggerations. I thought humanity had vanished, that we would never see them again. I was wrong. All of us were wrong. Veyrax realized a terrifying truth. This battle, this moment, was not about territory or revenge or strategy. It was about fear itself. The humans were a force designed to impose fear, a fear so complete that no plan, no fleet, no weapon could overcome it. Outside the Dominion fleet, one by one, ships stopped. Their crews stared in disbelief. Systems failed. Engines died. Weapons froze. And still, silence. And then it happened. A ripple through the fleet. One ship, a massive cruiser, suddenly turned inward. Its engines flared in a catastrophic chain reaction. The shield collapsed. Weapons fired uncontrollably, striking friend and foe alike. The humans had not touched it. The ship destroyed itself from the inside. Veyrax screamed, "No, this is impossible." But it was not impossible. It was humans. The legend, the myth, the species that everyone feared, alive, present, unstoppable. In the Dominion fleet, panic became madness. Commanders shouted at each other. Orders conflicted. Pilots abandoned posts. Soldiers fired at each other, trying to survive, trying to regain control, trying to escape a power they could not fight. And above all, above every scream, every explosion, every collapsing ship, the humans remained calm, silent, judging, waiting. Veyrax finally sank into his chair, defeated. He understood now what the old records had warned. The humans do not fight like others. They do not follow any rules of war. They are not bound by morality, alliances, or honor. They are the balance itself. And the balance had already passed judgment. The Carrion Dominion would never be the same. The galaxy would never be the same. Even in the Coalition fleet, Admiral Kael and Commander Selene realized the humans were not saviors. They were a force that existed outside the rules of existence. A shadow that could erase worlds. A whisper ran through Kael's mind. If you call them again, do not expect mercy. They only act when everything else fails. And they remember, in the void of space, the humans moved again. Not in attack, not in retreat, simply observing. Every fleet, every system, every ship felt their presence. Fear had spread like wildfire. Panic became a contagion. And the humans, as always, were patient, waiting, watching. The Carrion Dominion realized one horrifying truth. The humans had not acted to destroy them. Not yet, but they could, and everyone knew it. Silence fell over the battlefield. Not the quiet of peace, but the quiet of something far heavier. Anticipation, awe, fear. The Carrion Dominion fleet floated powerless. Their engines, their shields, their weapons, all dead. Systems failed. Officers screamed orders that went unanswered. Pilots abandoned controls mid-flight, trying desperately to escape a power they could not comprehend. And yet, the humans did nothing. They had arrived like shadows. They had dismantled a fleet without firing a shot. They had judged, passed their verdict, and now waited. On the bridge of the Valor Dawn, Admiral Kael sat silently. His hands rested lightly on the console, but every nerve in his body was tense. He had seen their power. He had seen the human ships move with purpose, yet without aggression. He had seen the enemy crumble from fear alone. And he knew now that the humans were not allies, not saviors. They were the ultimate force of judgment. Commander Selene stood beside him. Her face was pale. They could end all of this, she whispered. Not just the Dominion. Any fleet, any civilization. They are perfect executioners. Kael nodded slowly. And they do not forget. Whatever we just saw, it will be remembered for centuries. Outside, the humans moved. Not fast, not slow, but deliberate, controlled, precise. Their ships drifted through the Dominion fleet like ghosts, phasing without collision, touching nothing, yet affecting everything. Then, in a motion so subtle that many sensors failed to detect it, the humans began to leave. No fanfare, no weapons, No signals. Just silence. Kael leaned forward, watching the lead human craft retreat into the darkness. He felt a chill. Not fear. Not relief. Awe. Selene's voice was barely a whisper. They are leaving. But why? Kael exhaled slowly. Because their work is done. Their judgment is complete. The war is over. But not by our hand. By theirs. The Dominion fleet floated broken, powerless. Every officer on every ship realized the same terrifying truth. They had survived, but only because the humans allowed it. They were alive, but not free. Rumors began to spread almost immediately across the Dominion's internal communications. What little survived. One message reached the outer systems before systems failed entirely. They are humans, the ones everyone feared. They decide. They erase. They judge. Fear became legend in seconds. The Carrion Dominion had always relied on discipline, on structure, on control. And all of it had failed. Completely. Inside the Coalition fleet, Kael and Selene watched the last human ship vanish into the distance. The stars seemed to bend around it. Time itself felt slower. Kael whispered, almost to himself, "They are not our allies. They are something else entirely." Selene nodded. Something no one should ever summon lightly. Outside in the void, the humans moved as if they belonged not to space but above it. No one could track their course. No one could predict their moves. And when they vanished, no one knew where they had gone. In the Dominion flagship, Commander Verax stared at the empty void where the human lead ship had been. His face was pale. They could have destroyed us completely," he muttered. "We were lucky?" An older officer shook his head slowly. "No, not lucky. They chose not to. That is far worse. They are not bound by mercy. They are bound by judgment. And they will remember this day. All of us. Every failure. Every hesitation. Every mistake." The Dominion soldiers did not speak. Some wept. Some screamed. Others simply sat frozen, staring at the empty void where power beyond imagination had appeared and vanished. Back on the Valor-Dawn, Kael realized the full scope. Humanity had entered the battlefield not to fight, but to restore balance, to judge, to act where others failed. They were not concerned with victory. They were not concerned with glory. They were concerned with consequence. A single thought pressed into Kael's mind, heavier than any starship's weight. If humans ever returned, no one, not Dominion, not Coalition, not any species, would ever dare to oppose them again. Not even slightly. Selene spoke, voice trembling. "They are more than legends. They are the last option. And we just used it." Kael swallowed. "We called them, and now the galaxy will never forget it. Not as allies, not as saviors. They are judgment itself. Silent, perfect, unforgiving." The humans disappeared into the black. The stars returned to their normal rhythm. The Carrion Dominion drifted in ruin. And in the distance, burning planets marked the cost. Kael walked slowly to the viewport. He thought of the billions who might have perished, the fleet that had been dismantled without a shot, the humans who had entered and vanished. He realized something terrifying. The galaxy would never be the same. Across the Coalition fleet, word spread. The humans had acted. They had saved lives. They had ended a war. And yet, they had not left hope behind. They had left fear. They had left respect. They had left legend. Historians in the making would later write about this day. They would call it a miracle. They would call it divine intervention. But the truth would remain hidden. The humans did not act for mercy. They acted for balance, for judgment. And in that, the universe understood something fundamental. No power had ever existed like them. No one would ever oppose them lightly again. In the Carrion Dominion, commanders whispered the name in terror. The humans, the ones we feared, they came and judged. On Coalition ships, sailors spoke it with awe. The humans, they are not ours call lightly. They are beyond. The legend of the humans began in whispers, in rumors, in fear. Across systems, across fleets, across worlds. And then, as quickly as they had arrived, the humans vanished completely. No one saw their exit. No warp trails. No energy signatures. Nothing. Only the memory of their presence remained. Kael finally spoke aloud, voice quiet, almost reverent. We have seen them. We have survived. And yet, we are not free from them. They have entered history now, and history will remember them differently than us. Always above us. Always beyond us. Waiting. Selene looked at him, eyes wide. Do you think they will ever return? Kael did not answer. He could not, because he knew the answer. They would return, when balance required it, when judgment demanded it, and when they did, the galaxy would never be ready. The stars stretched before him, quiet and infinite. Somewhere in that darkness, humanity waited, silent, patient, judging, and across the galaxy, whispers grew into legends. The humans, they are coming. They are watching. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And they will decide. The weight of that truth settled over every world, every fleet, every life. Humanity had entered the battlefield, passed judgment, and vanished. But the echo of their presence would never leave. The galaxy would never forget. And neither would Kael. The stars were silent. For weeks, the Coalition and the Carrion Dominion fleets floated in the aftermath. Smoke and fire still marked the battlefields. Worlds were scarred, fleets broken, systems in ruin. And yet, no one spoke of victory. There was no celebration. Only stories whispered in fear and awe. The humans were gone. Not in warp, not in stealth. Simply vanished. No trails. No signals. Nothing. Yet, their presence lingered everywhere. Every ship, every fleet. Every mind felt the weight of what had happened. Admiral Kael walked through the bridge of the Valor Dawn. His steps were slow, heavy. Every officer glanced at him, expecting words of encouragement, plans for rebuilding, reports of the enemy's defeat. But Kael had none of that. He stared at the viewport. The stars stretched in quiet infinity. Somewhere, out there, humanity waited, silent, watching, judging. Commander Selene approached him, her face pale but resolute. Admiral, the humans, they're more than legends now. Every pilot, every soldier, every fleet commander will remember them, across every system. Kael nodded slowly. Not just remember. Fear them. Respect them. Every story will exaggerate their power, their judgment, their presence. And the galaxy will believe every word, even if none of it is fully understood. Outside, the Dominion fleet drifted powerless. Their commanders, shaken to the core, whispered about myths becoming reality, about humans who could dismantle fleets without firing a shot, about judgment without battle, about fear made tangible. A young Dominion officer whispered, voice trembling, Do they always do this? An older commander shook his head slowly. No one knows. They only act when everything else fails. But when they act, you do not survive lightly. Across coalition networks, survivors shared stories. Each tale grew taller than the last. One said humans walked among enemy fleets, invisible, untouchable. Another claimed they could see into minds, dismantle strategy before it was even planned. Others spoke of entire fleets destroyed without a weapon fired. All stories agreed on one thing. Humans were unstoppable. Humans were judgment. Humans were myth. Admiral Kael realized the terrifying truth. Humans had entered the galaxy not to help, not to fight, not to be allies. They existed above all rules, above all laws, above all understanding. They had come, past judgment, and left. And the galaxy would never forget it. Selene broke the silence. They did not stay. They did not demand thanks. They left, and yet every fleet, every government, every world will carry their memory. Kael's eyes narrowed. And that is their legacy. Not peace, not victory, fear, respect, the certainty that no one is beyond judgment, that no mistake, no hesitation, no weakness goes unseen. In the Dominion remnants, chaos brewed. Officers turned on each other. Soldiers abandoned posts. Panic spread like wildfire. The humans were gone, yet their effect rippled through every mind, every decision, every command. Across the galaxy, rumors became stories. Stories became legends. And legends became truth in the eyes of those who had survived. A historian aboard a distant research station would later write, "The humans arrived silently. They passed judgment. They left without explanation. We do not know their motives nor their limits. But we know this. The galaxy remembers them as a force that decides. The force no one challenges. The force that will return if needed. And when it does, all will bow to its judgment." Kael sat alone in his cabin. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what had occurred. Billions of lives had been saved. Fleets had been neutralized. And yet, every choice, every survival, every breath came at the cost of acknowledging something far greater than any human could have imagined. The humans were not heroes, not saviors, not gods. They were judgment. And judgment was patient, silent, unforgiving. Somewhere in the dark expanse, the humans existed beyond time, beyond memory, beyond fear itself. Waiting, watching, judging. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. To call the humans was to gamble with fate itself. To survive them was to earn their attention. To challenge them was unthinkable. Stories spread, systems whispered, fleets trembled. The humans became a shadow across the stars, a myth born from reality, more feared than the deadliest weapon, more respected than the greatest ally. Admiral Kael leaned against the viewport. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "They are gone for now, but they are always watching, always judging." Outside, the void of space stretched endlessly, silent yet alive with possibility. Somewhere, the humans waited, and the galaxy knew. They would never act without reason, but when they did, no force could withstand them. The battle had ended. The humans had passed judgment, and a new era of awe, fear, and legend had begun. Somewhere, deep in the dark corners of the universe, a whisper traveled. The humans, they come when you fail. They see what others cannot. And when they judge, no one escapes. And in that silence, the legacy of judgment settled over the stars. The galaxy would never forget. The humans had arrived, and they would always be the final choice.